Namaskar. Hello friends. I have been sharing my insights into the different selected verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So far I have covered 16 chapters. Today I am taking up chapter 17, verses 2 to 6 of chapter 17. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha bhavati shraddha dehinam sa svabhavaja sattviki rajasi chaiva tamasi chetitam shruno sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddhamayoyam purusho yo yat shraddha sa eva saha yajante sattvika devan yaksharakshansi rajasaha प्रेतान भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते यो तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. Literal meaning. Shri Bhagavan said, the natural faith of human beings is of three kinds: sattvik, rajasik and tamasik. Now I will describe them to you. O Arjuna, everyone gets the kind of faith in accordance with his past samskaras, that is conditioning. One is what one's faith is. Those who are sattvik worship gods. Those who are rajas worship yakshas or minor gods and demons. And the rest of the tamas people worship ghosts and souls of dead people. Those with pretense and ego, as also desire and attachment, that is predominated by rajas gunas, perform intense penances in transgression of scriptures. And those who are thoughtless and trouble their own organs as well as me, who dwells inside their bodies, are of demonic faith. Practical insight. Everything in this physical creation can be fundamentally categorized into three broad categories. These categories are based on the three gunas, namely sattva, rajas and tamas. In a fundamental way, sattva guna is characterized by a spiritual orientation that is turned away from the physical world. Rajas guna is rooted in the physical world and is responsible for actions and behavior driven by self-interest. Tamas guna is basically ignorance of what is right and what is wrong, and is also characterized by laziness and wrong actions that are intended to cause harm to others. These verses talk about how faith can be categorized on this basis. The subsequent verses talk about similar categorization of food, fire rituals, that is yajna, penance and charity. Verses 8, 9 and 10 of chapter 17. Ayuhu sattva balarogya sukha pratiti vivardhanaha rasyaha snigdhaha sthirardya aharaha sattvika priyaha katvam lalvanatyuttikshna vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha prada yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitancha yat uchchishtam chamedhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. Literal meaning. Sattvik people like the foods that increase life, vigor, strength, good health, happiness and love and those foods are juicy, have adequate lubricants, that is, oils and fats. They are nutritious and pleasing to the mind. Foods that are extremely bitter, sour, salty, hot, spicy, and that cause grief and disease are favored by rajasic people. Tamasic people like the foods that are half cooked, tasteless, spoiled, stale, and already eaten from by others, and as such are unholy. Practical insight. There are three categories of food on the basis of the three gunas. It is said that the living beings are made by the food that they eat. That is why a sincere spiritual seeker needs to pay attention to what food he is eating. He should eat only sattvik food as far as possible and avoid the other types. Then his mind will be in a better position to seek spirit. Verses 14, 15 and 16 of chapter 17. Devadvija Guru Pradnya Pujanam Shauchamarjavam Brahmacharya Mahimsa cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Priyahitancha Yat Swadhyayabhyasananchaiva Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate Manah Prasadah Saumyatvam Maunamatma Vinigraha Bhava Samshuddhirityet Tattapo Manasam Uchyate. Literal meaning: worshipping God, Brahmin, Guru, and learned men, cleanliness, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-violence are called as bodily penance. Speech penance is speaking in a manner that does not hurt anyone, is truth and sweet sounding, and its and its effect is benevolent. Studying Vedas is speech penance too. Pleasant state of mind, gentleness, silence, self-control, and purification of mind are regarded as mental penance. Practical insight. These verses explain what the three different kinds of penance are. Penance is necessary for purification of body, speech, and mind. As creatures belonging to the physical world, we become impure due to the inputs received from the external world. So, before we can get liberated as pure soul, these impurities need to be cleansed. That process of cleansing is penance. Verses 20, 21 and 22 of chapter 17. Datavyamiti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smrutam yattu pratyupakarartham phalamuddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam tad rajasamudarutam adeshakale yaddanam patrebhyascha diyate asatkrutamat vadnyatam tattamasamudarutam. Literal meaning: the charity that is done with the thinking that it is one's duty and is given in a holy place at an auspicious time to a deserving person and to one who will not reciprocate that charity is called sattvik charity. The charity done with the objective of getting something in return or with a desire for some fruit and given unwillingly is called rajasik charity. The charity that is done disrespectfully, in an insulting manner, and without regard to the right place, auspicious time, and deservingness of the receiver is called tamasik charity. Practical insight. The three categories of charity are nicely explained in these verses. The best type of charity is the sattvik one. The most important aspect of sattvik charity is that it is done without expecting anything in return. It is done as one's duty, which means that one should not get doubts like, what is the use if I alone do this charity? Will it change the situation which is too big to be impacted by a single individual, etc. Sattvik charity is done for its own sake. Verses 23 to 26 of chapter 17. Om tatsaditi nirdesho brahmanastrividha smrtah brahmanastena vedascha yajñascha vihitah pura tasmado mityudarhritya yajñadana tapah kriyah pravartante vidhanokta satatam brahmavadinam tadityana bhisamudhaya falan yajñatapah kriyah दानक्रियाश्च विविधाः क्रियन्ते मोक्षकाङ्क्षिभिः सद्भावे साधुभावे च सदित्येत प्रयुज्यते प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा सत्शब्दः प्रार्थयुज्यते. Literal meaning: Om Tat Sat are three kinds of names of Brahman. With the help of them, Brahmins, Vedas and Yajnas were created long ago. Hence, those who know Vedas continuously engage in the performance of yajna, charity, and penance by pronouncing Om, that is the name of Brahman. Those who are desirous of attaining moksha, that is liberation, pronounce the name of Brahman, that is Tat, and engage in the performance of yajna, penance, and charity without desiring any fruit thereof. Wise men employ the name of Brahman, that is Sat, to indicate eternal existence and holiness. Besides, the word Sat is also used to indicate benevolent karma. Practical insight: it is very important to have the right mental attitude while performing any karma. The mantra Om Tat Sat is symbolic, and the spirit behind it must be kept in mind, and one should be conscious of it rather than just parroting the mantra. This is wonderfully described by Sant Jnaneshwar in his Bhavartha Deepika, that is Jnaneshwari, as follows: the Parabrahman that is transcendental to the world and that can see the whole world by itself is addressed by the word Tat. O Arjuna, Parabrahman is to be meditated upon by remembering that it is before everything else, and then Tat is to be pronounced. Then one should say that all of one's actions, as also their fruits, be surrendered to Brahman in the form of Tat, and there be left nothing for me to experience. Thus, one surrenders all the karmas to Brahman in the form of Tat and becomes free. Now the karma that was started by pronouncing Om and the fruit of which was surrendered by pronouncing Tat became Brahman itself. But that karma becoming Brahman is not enough, because the one who performed the karma is still separate. That duality still exists. When salt is put into water, it dissolves, but its salty taste is separate from the water. Similarly, saying that karma has become Brahman itself is a manifestation of duality. And so long as duality exists, the fear of samsara does not disappear. Hence, this duality that still exists has to be removed by employing the word Sat. So, the karma that becomes Brahman by employing Om and Tat is called Prashasta karma, and the word Sat is applied to it in the following manner. The word Sat removes the impermanence, the illusion of manifestation, and one sees the real self. Sat can never and nowhere become like anything other than the Brahman, and it is always the real self. The illusory nature of this perceptible creation disappears due to the word Sat, and the world merges with real self. So the Prashasta karma that became Brahman, now with the help of Sat, removes the duality of the one who performed that karma. This is what Sat is. The word Sat works in another way on sattvik karma. Sat karma may be going on properly except for some shortcoming in some way. It is like a chariot slowing down when one of its parts is absent or faulty. Likewise, karma is otherwise Sat, but it becomes Asat because of lack of maybe just one quality. Then the word Sat, with the help of Om and Tat, redeems that karma perfectly by removing the fault in that karma. A divine medicine cures a patient, or when a warrior who is defeated gets help from another, his power increases. Similarly, Sat removes the shortcoming of a karma. Or if due to some mistake karma goes astray and becomes a prohibited karma, then employing the word Sat transforms that prohibited karma into a Sat karma. It is like what a philosopher's stone is to iron, or what river Ganga is to a stream, or what nectar is to a dead man. Thus the letters Om Tat Sat take a mumukshu, that is person desirous of liberation, to that place where Brahman lights up everything. Parabrahman is clean and indivisible, and Om Tat Sat are its internal names. But like sky itself supports sky, likewise the letters Om Tat Sat are supported by Brahman itself. When sun rises in the sky, it is the sun itself showing the sun. Similarly, pronouncing these names takes one to Brahman. I will stop here. Chapter 17 is complete. Next time I will take up the last chapter, namely chapter 18. Until then, bye. Take care.